Hey guys, welcome to the dark side of Japan. Today we will be talking about different parts of Japanese culture and the different parts of Japan that you probably didn't know about. Now, we have put references to everything that we have mentioned, articles, links, all in the description. Everything we talk about today is factual, has actually happened, and they are all within the references. Now, why do we want to make this video? Well, let me give a bit of a brief explanation. You see, a lot of people perceive Japan as this, highly futuristic, kind of like a vibrant anime, exquisite like sushi cutting technology kind of country. It is a nation often celebrated for its unique blend of ancient traditions with futuristic innovations. When you think of Japan, you think anime, Pokemon, you think of all that. And you think of a land, serene of temples, bustling neon-lit cities. That's what you think of. Now, this carefully cultivated image, often referred to as Japan's soft power, has captivated global audiences, presenting a facade of politeness, order, and cultural richness. Yet beneath this polished veneer lies a reality far more complex, unsettling, and at times brutally dark. This mini documentary will peel back the layers, that illusion, venturing into the shadows of Japan's past and present to reveal a narrative rarely told, one of violence, denial, and profound societal struggles. We will confront the uncomfortable truths that challenge the perception of what we see, and exposing how Japan's celebrated image masks a history of unbridled aggression, a contemporary landscape grappling with deep-seated issues. This is not the Japan of tourist brochures or pop culture fantasies. This is the dark side of Japan, a story that serves as chilling warning that behind beauty and technological advancements can lie a legacy of violence, denial, and decay. Let's first talk about Imperial Japan's atrocities. We all know something, but did you know that to understand the darkness that haunts Japan, we must first journey back to the early 20th century, a period when the nation embarked on a brutal campaign of imperial expansion, fueled by a fervent nationalism and a belief in its own racial superiority. Japan unleashed a wave of violence across Asia, leaving a trail of death and destruction that continues to cast a long shadow over the region, even today. The invasion of Korea, China, the Philippines, and Southeast Asia were not mere military campaigns. They were systematic conquests marked by unimaginable cruelty and a complete disregard for human life. In 1910, Japan formally annexed Korea, beginning a 35-year period of brutal colonial rule. The Korean people were subjected to forced assimilation, their language and culture suppressed, and their resources ruthlessly exploited. But it was in China that the full horror of Japanese imperialism was unleashed. The invasion of Manchuria in 1931, orchestrated through the stage Mukden incident, was just the beginning. In 1937, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China, culminating in one of the most horrific events of the 20th century, the Rape of Nanjing. For 6 weeks, the city was subjected to a reign of terror. An estimated 200,000 to 300,000 Chinese civilians and unarmed soldiers were slaughtered. Tens of thousands of women were gang raped and mutilated. The streets ran red with blood as Japanese soldiers engaged in killing contests and other sadistic acts of violence. The Rape of Nanjing was not an isolated incident. It was just horrible. It was a microcosm of brutality that defined Japan's war in Asia. In the shadows of the battlefield, another more sinister war was being waged. Unit 731, a coveted biological and chemical warfare research and development unit of the Imperial Japanese Army, conducted horrific human experiments on prisoners of war and civilians. Men, women, and children were subjected to horrible things. Vivisection without anesthesia, infected with deadly diseases, and used as human guinea pigs for the development of biological weapons. The atrocities committed by Unit 731 are a chilling testament to the depth of human depravity. Across Asia, millions were forced into slave labor, working in mines and factories under brutal conditions to fuel Japan's war machine. An estimated 200,000 women, mostly from Korea and China, were forced into sexual slavery as comfort women for the Japanese military. These women were subjected to repeated rape and abuse. Their bodies and spirits were completely broken. The massacre were not limited to Nanjing. In the Philippines, the Bataan Death March saw the brutal treatment and death of thousands of American and Filipino prisoners of war. In Singapore, the Suk Ching massacre targeted and killed thousands of Chinese civilians. From the villages of Korea to the jungles of Southeast Asia, the Japanese military left a legacy of terror and death. The exact number of people who died under Japan's expansionist regime is difficult to determine, but estimates range from 3 to 10 million, the vast majority of whom were actually civilians. Now let's talk about the war and its aftermath. The war that Japan unleashed upon Asia eventually turned back on itself. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, devastating as they were, are often framed within Japan as the ultimate symbol of victimhood. The images of the mushroom clouds and the suffering of the Hibakusha, the atomic bomb survivors, are seared into the national consciousness. Yet, this narrative, while let's just say undeniably tragic, often conveniently sidesteps the crucial context that Japan's aggression created its own downfall. The bombings, horrific as they were a direct consequence of a war, conquest, and unparalleled brutality initiated by the Imperial Japan. In the aftermath of its surrender, Japan largely avoided full accountability for its war crimes. Unlike Germany, which underwent extensive accountability and they talked about their crimes and they reckoned their crimes. Japan's reckoning was incomplete. The Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal, while prosecuting some high-ranking officials for crimes against peace, conventional war crimes and crimes against humanity, was far from comprehensive. Thousands of perpetrators of atrocities escaped justice. Crucially, the United States, seeking to establish Japan as a bulwark against communism in Asia, played a pivotal role in shielding Emperor Hirohito from indictment as a war criminal. So the US did protect him. Furthermore, the US actively concealed information about the horrific biological warfare experiments conducted by Unit 731, granting immunity from prosecution to its leaders in exchange for their research data. That's right. The US knew what they did, and they didn't incriminate them. This strategic decision, driven by Cold War geopolitics, effectively allowed many responsible for the unspeakable acts to evade punishment, fostering a sense of impunity and contributing to a collective amnesia regarding Japan's wartime responsibilities. The mutual complicity between the US and Japan governments in denying war responsibilities has poisoned the well of historic truth. leaving deep wounds unhealed and tensions simmering all across East Asia. Now let's talk about the historical shadows today. The incomplete reckoning with its past has left deep historic shadows that continue to poison Japan's present, particularly in its relationships with its Asian neighbors. One of the most contentious issues is the denial or whitewashing of atrocities in Japan textbooks. While some widely used textbooks in the past did reference events like the Nanjing massacre and Korean resistance, there have been persistent accusations of historical inaccuracies and propaganda. Neo-nationalist groups have actively campaigned to revise textbooks, downplaying or omitting Japan's wartime aggressions and atrocities. This revisionist narrative, often presented as a patriotic reinterpretation of history, deeply offends nations like China and Korea, who view it as an attempt to erase the suffering inflicted upon them. Another flashpoint is the Yasukani Shrine, a controversial Shinto shrine in Tokyo that honors Japan's war dead, including 14 Class A convicted war criminals. Visits by Japanese politicians to the shrine are consistently met with outrage from China and South Korea, who see it as a symbol of Japan's unrepentant, past, and a glorification of what they did, and a glorification of war crimes. Despite international condemnation, some prominent figures, including former prime ministers and cabinet ministers, continue to visit or send offerings to Yasukuni, offering no relaxation to the issues. They continue to disregard the victims of Japanese aggression, and refusal to genuinely confront the nation's wartime history is just a continued thing. The consequences of these historical shadows are evident in the strained ties between Japan and its neighbors. The unresolved historical grievances, particularly with China and Korea, continue to impede full reconciliation and definite cooperation. You can see in today's China and today's South Korea, they're still not all that with Japan. Tensions stemming from Japan's colonial rule and wartime conduct persist. It's manifesting in diplomatic disputes, economic friction, and a deep-seated mistrust. The past, far from being a closed chapter, remains a living, festering wound that prevents true healing and stability in East Asia. Now we come to modern Japan. Let's talk about dark modern Japan. Beyond the historic specters, Japan grapples with a constellation of modern crises that paint an equally grim picture. The relentless pursuit of economic success and societal conformity has birthed a darker reality for many of its citizens. Karoshi, death by overwork. Have you guys heard of this? Well, you're about to know how people overwork and they don't survive. One of the most chilling manifestations of Japan's intense work culture is called Karoshi, or death by overwork. This phenomenon, once a shocking rarity, has become a recognized and tragic reality. The pressure to conform, to dedicate oneself entirely to the company, often leads to extreme working hours, chronic stress, and ultimately fatal health consequences. In 2022, a staggering 10.1% of men and 4.2% of women in Japan worked over 60 hours a week. That's crazy. The human cost is immense. In 2024, 883 individuals were officially recognized as suffering from mental health issues directly linked to overwork. The most extreme cases result in work-related suicides, with around 200 such deaths reported in 2024. Let's talk about the suicide epidemic. You've heard it right, epidemic. Japan has struggled with one of the highest suicide rates among developed nations, a silent epidemic that continues to claim thousands of lives each year. In 2024 alone, over 20,300 people died by suicide across the country, while there was a slight decrease in 2023 with 21,837 reported suicides. The number remains tragically high. The pervasive despair is a complex issue, entwined with societal pressures, economic anxieties, and a cultural reluctance to seek mental health support. It is a profound wound on the national psyche. Reflecting is a deep-seated struggle for many to find meaning and hope in a demanding society, especially in Japan. Now we're going to talk about something called the shut-ins, or Hikikomori. Now, adding another layer to Japan's social malaise is the phenomenon of Hikikomori. Individuals who withdraw from society, often for months or even years, confining themselves to their homes. This extreme social isolation, once thought to be a niche issue, now reflects millions. A 2022 government survey revealed that nearly 1.5 million people in Japan aged 15 to 64 were living as hikikomori, represented almost 2% of that demographic. A more recent one, in 2023 Cabinet Office survey estimated 1.46 million individuals are hikikomori. These individuals, often trapped by social anxiety, academic pressure, or a sense of failure, become invisible members of society, their lives unfolding in quiet desperation behind closed doors. The sheer scale of this phenomenon speaks volumes about the pressure of modern Japanese life and the challenges of mental health and social integration. Because of all this, we have something called the decline birth rate, and it makes a lot of sense, and also demographic collapse. So Japan is on the precipice of a demographic crisis, a slow motion collapse driven by a rapidly declining birth rate and an aging population. The numbers are alarming. In 2024, only 686,061 babies were born, a record low, and the first time the figure dropped below 700,000 people. This marks the 9th consecutive year of decline. With 720,988 births in 2024, the nation's population, which peaked at 128 million in 2008, has been shrinking for 15 years and is projected to halve by the end of the century. In 2024 alone, the non-foreign native population plummeted by an unprecedented 898,000. This demographic time bomb is fueled by factors such as declining marriage rates and an increased average age for marriage. The implications are profound: a shrinking workforce, an overburnt social welfare system, and a fundamental challenge to Japan's future economic and social stability. With this, we come to the next part of corporate scandals, cover-ups and corruptions. Beneath the veneer of corporate efficiency and integrity, Japan's business landscape has been repeatedly marred by scandals, cover-ups and corruption, from the multi-billion-dollar accounting irregularities at Toshiba to Fujitsu's data manipulation controversies. A pattern of systematic it's just coming up more and more. And major non-life insurance companies have faced administrative penalties due to recent scandals. One of the most crazy examples is the Takata airbag inflator scandal. Get this, which resulted in at least 28 deaths and 400 injuries globally, exposing a culture of prioritizing profits over safety. So next time you think made in Japan is good, think of that. Some are good, but always, look at the stats. The Olympus accounting fraud and Kobe Steel's data fabrication further underscore a troubling trend of corporate deceit. Beyond the corporate giants, the existence of black companies, firms notorious for abusive practices like unpaid overtime, verbal abuse, and harassment, highlights a dark side of the labor market. Even the government is not immune. Japan is currently embroiled in its worst political corruption scandal in 3 decades. These incidences erode public trust and reveal a persistent undercurrent of ethical compromise within Japanese, with the power that these guys have. Now, because of all this, we have something called the rising nationalism and debates about, believe it or not, nuclear weapons. So, something's happening in Japan. And a disquieting undercurrent in modern Japan is basically nationalism, a force that once propelled the nation to its imperialistic past is coming back. This renewed sense of national pride, often entwined with historical revisionism, seek to downplay past atrocities and reassert Japan's global standing. So it's basically the same mindset they had in the past. The debate surrounding the revision of Article 9 of Japan's pacifist constitution, which renounces war, is a key indicator of this complete shift. While former Prime Minister Abe's push to legitimize the Japan Self-Defense Force with the constitution by 2020 did not fully materialize. The discussion continues, right? It's still ongoing. Coupled with this rising nationalism is a subtle but significant debate about nuclear weapons. Despite Japan's unique history as the only nation to suffer atomic bombings and strong public opinion for nuclear disarmament, the deteriorating strategic environment in East Asia has led to discussions about Japan's nuclear posture. While direct acquisition of nuclear weapons remains highly controversial, the conversation around extended nuclear deterrence and potential for Japan to develop its own capabilities reflect a growing assertiveness and a departure from its post-war pacifist stance. This shift, while framed as a response to regional threats, carries an unsettling echo of a past that Asia desperately hopes Japan has completely left behind. So, all in all, Japan's dark side is not merely a relic of its past. It is a living, breathing entity woven into the fabric of its politics, its society, and its future. The narrative of a polite, orderly, and technologically advanced nation, while not entirely false, is profoundly incomplete. Beneath the surface lies a history of brutal aggression, a present riddled with profound social crisis, and a cultural landscape that for many stifles individuality and perpetuates inequality. From the unspeakable atrocities committed by Imperial Japan across Asia to the silent suffering of those to Karoshi and suicide. From the millions shut down away as Hikikomori to the looming specter of demographic collapse. And from persistent corporate corruption to the unsettling resurgence of nationalism. Japan's story is a complex tapestry of light and shadow. The failure to fully confront its wartime past continues to poison its relationships with its neighbors, while internal pressures create a society where conformity often trumps well-being. I hope this documentary really came across. This documentary serves as a chilling final note. Japan's story is a warning. It demonstrates that behind the most captivating beauty and the most advanced technology can lie a profound capacity for violence, a stubborn denial of truth, and a slow, insidious decay. The dark side of Japan is a mirror reflecting the universal human struggle between progress and prejudice, innovation and injustice, and ultimately between the narratives we wish to believe and the uncomfortable realities we must confront. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.